Welcome back to another video where we are going to discuss 5 biggest mistakes that every chess player makes. If you watch this video to the end, then you are going to notice many of your mistakes that you make, and you can have a promise that you will not repeat those mistakes and can help yourself to become a better player. So the very first mistake that every chess player does is leaving hanging pieces on the board. Hanging pieces are the pieces that remain undefended or aren't protected by any of our pieces. There are two reasons for why this happens. One is carelessness, not noticing that your piece can be taken. And the second one is miscounting the number of attackers. For example, in this position, we can see that this bishop is an undefended piece because this is not protected by any of our pieces. So, what white does is that white simply takes that pawn, which is completely a mistake that you can easily see because white doesn't notice that this piece can be taken by both of the pieces. Also, white doesn't count the number of attackers that were the queen as well as the bishop. And at last, what happens? White loses the minor piece. So it is generally important for not to leave hanging pieces on the board. Here we look for the second biggest mistake that every chess player makes, and that is not thinking about your planning strategy. As we all know that planning is the most important concept in order to win games easily. Even Pragnantha, Magnus Carlsen, they also have to make a better planning strategy in order to win many games. For example, in this, black plays queen to x4, which is threatening a check at x2 pawn. And white notices that black left the queen hanging there. So, white, without thinking for even a second, white simply takes the queen, which is a blunder because white doesn't thought of the checkmate. So it's an important thing to have plans on your mind. You must ask questions to yourself. For why black sacrificed the queen over there? What is black ideas behind this? Why is black trying to sacrifice the queen? You must try to understand your opponent. The third most common mistake is about king safety. For example, in this position, these three pawns together are protecting king, and in this position, this knight is attacking the pawn. So this pawn can be protected by the rook by playing rook to e1, but here white plays f3, which is creating an open diagonal. Here comes the queen to c5, giving the check, and it is attacking the bishop. And at last, white loses the bishop. So it's generally not a good idea to push any of these pawns and destroy the king's position. So the fourth most common mistake is not seeing the board. For example, in this position, we can see that there is a lonely king on the x file and can make a move at the x file only. So white thought, why don't it give the check by playing rook to x1? And white completely got stuck on black's trap. Here comes rook to x1 giving a check, but white didn't thought of the bishop was on the either side of the board, and at last black won the rook and white decides the game. Easily you can see that bishops are the most important pieces as well, because the last most common mistake everyone does is playing random moves. For example, in this position, white plays d3, which is of no use as this blocks this bishop way. Anyways, black plays knight to f6 and then come knight f2 d2, which is completely of no use, yet white plays it. And actually, at last, white plays such wrong moves like taking out the queen. Black further look for its development of the bishop and many of the pieces. And what white is doing is something unbelievable. And at last, white queen is trapped. These random moves can make you resign.